The core activity consists of individual work, where the learners will make a greeting card to an authentic recipient. The core activity also consists of a pair activity, where the students are to show and discuss their cards. Do they have any suggestions for each other? And this is an important part of the task, because the students get to put into words what they have been doing and reflect upon it. And by communication, they are reflecting upon their own learning process and have time to improve. Then the individual work again, where they are to finish their greeting cards based on the pair activity. The follow-up consists of the students showing, reading, and talking about the cards to the class. They can either present it up in front of the blackboard if they wish to, or they can stand up at their own seats and show their cards around. It's up to them. The follow-up also consists of a whole class reflection phase, where there will be reflected upon the learning process, cultural differences, and evaluation on the goals, whether they are fulfilled or not, and on their own development of English language learning. The assessment consists of evaluation on the learners' greeting cards. Are all the criteria included? Did they feel comfortable presenting the cards? This is especially important, since if they show confidence, they are proud of what they have been doing and hopefully progressed in their learning process. There will be an evaluation on the learning process in relation to: have the learners fulfilled the learning objectives? Have they acquired language? Have they gotten any new knowledge? Cultural differences, and what makes a tradition. So this was my practice-related element. I will show you some of the outputs that have been produced by my students. Here you can see student text 1. You can see he has created a heart, and what you cannot see is the front page, where he has added additional hearts with the yellow colored paper and stuff like that. It says, "Dear Mom, I'm thankful for you are so sweet and you are a good mom. I'm also thankful for you born me and you make good food to me. Love from someone." Student text 2. I will just read it aloud. "Dear Dad, I love you, Dad. Thank you for mowing the lawn. I am thankful for us watching football together. Love from." As you can see, they have included all of the criteria, but student text 1 will be the target for my interlanguage analysis. So, on to reflections on age specialization regarding younger learners. You need to keep in mind to have comprehensible input adjusted to the group of learners. This is especially important since the input provides the ground or the base for the students to engage in further activities in relation to the subject or theme or topic. You need to provide adequate scaffolding, for instance, by making a model together, setting up age-appropriate criteria, and make sure that you are on the same level as the students. You need to have language support. You will need to introduce and use relevant vocabulary. You need to make a word list, given the fact that these are younger learners. Create phrases to use. For instance, in the card, I am thankful for ... Need to make activities involving learners using the new vocabulary to ensure language understanding. These activities must ensure meaningfulness because or else this new language isn't worth using for them. You need to use the English language in an authentic way to ensure language development. Theory and discussions of example. Scaffolding. So first and foremost, what is scaffolding? It is the assistance from the teacher in supporting the learners with adequate help. It involves the zone of proximal development by Vygotsky. He says what the child can do in cooperation today, he can do alone tomorrow, and that is the essential purpose and goal of teaching the English language. How to use scaffolding in my task. I've scaffolded it by dividing the task into phases to make the learning process explicit. I have added word list, sentence list, a model card, and I have been setting up understandable criteria. I have been building up the field knowledge in the lesson plan, which leads up to this, where they hopefully will successfully produce output and focus on the cultural aspect. I have provided opportunities for the learners where active participation and an authentic recipient and learner interest are included. Regarding safety in the language classroom, this is in particular important because the learners need to take risks without the fear of being made fun of. And why it's so important is because this is the target language, not the language they're used to speak every day. So, criteria for setting up this language classroom is that there must be a rich and varied input. You need to set up backfield knowledge, and this I've done by introducing the students to the origin of Thanksgiving and how to give thanks. It must include learner engagement, communication, and negotiation of meaning. I have done this by making the learners actively engage in an American tradition and produce output, and thereby to draw similarities and differences between American and Danish culture. I have also included a midway pair discussion to negotiate meaning, which is very important when it comes to expanding your view. You need to create circumstances to encourage the learners to produce output. That is why I have added an authentic recipient in the creative learning process, and the students are to hand the cards over to their chosen loved one. Evaluation is also important. Then that is why I have added pair and a whole class evaluation on the learning objectives, learning process, and the cultural dimension. As for the motivational dimension goes, you need to keep in mind to set up explicit and understandable goals. You need to keep a focus on attitudes, and you need to build the task up upon success for the students to succeed in what they're doing. This rely on performance and the support of fellow students and especially the teacher, and the idea must be scaffolded to make it understandable for the students and for them to get ideas in the task. So, motivation must come from within. What is intrinsic motivation? It is doing something that we like, that originates from our desires, and the teacher's role is to create opportunities, activities, and material to create such a task. I have done this by creating room for personal expressions to encourage and motivate the learners by making the task interesting and taking a point of departure in learner interests. I have created a creative process for the learners to produce the output to an authentic recipient. So what is extrinsic motivation? It is doing something we desire, doing something because we desire the outcome from the activity. I've done this, I'm keeping that in mind because maybe not all students are interested in a creative process, but the outcome, the greeting card itself can become the goal. So handing a card over to a loved one to see their joy and their expressions can be the goal. Cultural and intercultural competence, taken from Scarino and Liddicoat. The goal is to decenter learners from their own culture-based assumptions and to develop an intercultural identity as a result of an engagement with an additional culture. So you can read a little bit more about it in my synopsis, but what I have done is to include room for reflection on Danish and American culture. I have created open-mindedness by introducing the learners to what it means to express thankfulness to others. I have making the learners actively engage in the task and producing their own output. I have included room for negotiation of meaning halfway in the core activity and as a whole class reflection phase in the end. I have taken a point of departure and input from another culture, and I have taken into consideration the intrapersonal, what goes on in the individual, and the interpersonal, what goes on in the social practice aspect of language learning. So here, this is the student text I will be making an interlanguage analysis of. I'm just showing it to you again, in case you have forgotten about it. So, as far as general comments and representation goes, the overall meaning is clear and the main ideas are developed. The criteria are included, and you can see that the student has chosen his mom for multiple reasons. The text type, it's a personal note in the shape of a greeting card, and the text is appropriate since it is personal. Overall organization and cohesion. The organization is somewhat appropriate, yet he seems to be missing relevant dots and sections. He could divide it into sections perhaps. The connectives used are appropriate since we can see that you refers back to mom. Vocabulary. Student has used appropriate vocabulary according to the topic. Student has not used a semantic variety, and that is probably because this is a short and personal note. Yes, as far as appraisal goes, the reader is being informed on why this greeting card has been made. He expresses his feelings according to the text type. He could have added more descriptive text to challenge himself a bit. Sentence grammar, spelling, and punctuation. The sentence grammar is not quite accurate, but you can understand what the text is about. He is having quite some trouble with I'm. You born me and you make good food to me. I'm should have been I'm or I am, as you can see here. It appears to me that he does not know that there are two words. You born me, this is some vocabulary we have not been working with, so this could maybe be a good idea to take a point of departure in this another time. You make good food to me, it is not wrong, but to improve its language he could have written, you cook nice meals for me. But again, vocabulary we haven't been discussing and using. So, yes, this was all for now. Thank you. Bye.